Out of all of the Gundam things that I wasn't expecting for 2025, a remaster of Gundam Seed Battle Destiny was definitely on top of that list, but here we are. Originally released in 2012 for the PlayStation Vita, Battle Destiny was the 7th and unfortunately also last entry of the long-running Gundam Battle series made by ArtDink. And for the people who think that this series looks a lot like the Macross or Macross Ace Frontier series, that is because Frontier is in fact based on Battle. And another thing that they had in common, unfortunately, is that despite being excellent games, none of them ever made it to the West. Not that that stopped me or other fans, but anyways. This has now finally changed with the worldwide release of Gundam Seed Battle Destiny Remastered on Nintendo Switch and Steam, with all of the footage on screen coming from the Steam version. So let's dive in. The game starts with you making a pilot and a wingman with some limited customization options. Each portrait will give you different starting stats, and you can also choose from a few skills, with more becoming available as you progress through the game. On to the main mode of the game then, which is the story mode. As you've probably guessed by now, rather than playing as one of the main characters, you'll be playing as a grunt belonging either to Zaft or the Alliance, with the option later on to defect to the Archangel/Orb. And your missions just always happen to take place at important scenes from the anime. Or you can imagine that you're actually part of the main cast's crew, because the game never really explains your presence. And what the game also doesn't explain all that well is the story. It gives you an extremely basic rundown of what's going on, and off you go. If you're not familiar with Gundam Seed, you're not gonna have a clue of what's going on. But for the Gundam Seed fans that this game is of course aimed at, I don't think this is gonna bother you at all. What might be a bit of a disappointment though, has to do with the fact that this is a remaster from a game from 2012. Meaning that the story will take you through Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny, with bonus missions from Stargazer, Astray, X-Astray, Versus Astray, Seed MSV, and Seed Destiny MSV. For 2012, this was the full package and then some, especially for the machines you can use. There's over 100 different mobile suits and mobile armors to collect, going from well-known machines to more obscure machines, things like the N-Dagger N and the Jin Assault type. The remaster, of course, still has all of these, but it doesn't add any content from Gundam Seed Freedom, be it the story, the mobile suits, or the characters, so I'm kinda hoping for some future DLC here. Fortunately though, the game does offer you a lot of content to go through, and we've also got some pretty good combat to get you through that content. It's not quite as responsive as something like the Versus series, nor is it as fast-paced, but after a bit of button remapping, I was having a lot of fun. My only complaint though is the lock-on system. Despite being supposedly upgraded from the original game, it was still as bad as ever at locking onto what's important. For the most part it functions fine, but it screws up enough for the problem to be noticeable. Things like refusing to switch to a target because it's hidden behind the scenery, or prioritizing pointless targets way off in the distance over active threats that are right next to you. It turns an otherwise fun battle into something kinda frustrating. But now, on to another core element of the game. After each mission, you'll get graded on how you did, and you'll also receive several rewards. Completing certain missions with a certain grade will get you new mobile suits to use and new pilots to use them with. So if you don't like your generic pilot or your generic wingman, you can change them out for an unlocked named character. What you will always get though, are 2 currencies for tuning up your mobile suits. And I do like the idea behind these 2 different currencies. One currency is called Tuning Points, or TP, and is exclusively for tuning the mobile suit that you completed the mission with. and the other currency is called Global Points, or GP. And this can be used for tuning any mobile suit you want. So what I suggest you do is tuning up your mobile suit with TP while keeping the GP for when you unlock a better machine, or of course, your favorite machine. And you're really gonna wanna upgrade these things because using an untuned mobile suit is really no fun. They're slow, they're clunky, their weapons are etc, etc. The game really expects you to tune up your machine. And don't worry about investing in the wrong stats either. While there is a limit to how much tuning you can do in the beginning, at any point you can undo this tuning and then use those points on something else. But if you really want to go balls to the wall, once you get an S rank or higher on every story mission, the tuning limit can be removed. Meaning that as long as you have the points, you can max out every single stat of your favorite mobile suit and turn it into one of the strongest machines around. Now, I haven't done this in the Remastered yet, but here's some footage of my ultimate perfect strike on the original Vita version. Also note how different the tune-up screen looks. I really like what they did with the Remaster. And when you're done with the story missions, you can take your freshly unlocked and upgraded mobile suits to the free missions. First up in the free missions, we have the X missions. These are basically the same as the story missions, but with one change. In the story missions, you'll be somewhat limited as to which mobile suits you can use for which missions. For example, you can't use the Strike Freedom, which is a Destiny machine, in missions taking place during the original Seed series. But in the X missions, no such limits exist. So basically, you can play through the campaign again, but now with your favorite mobile suit. But if you really want to prove that you're the best ace pilot of the Cosmic Era, then you can tackle the Hyper Boss Battles. As the name indicates, these are basically the final boss battles of the game, so if you beat these, you beat the game, so to speak. And the final mode you can play is the Versus mode. Here you play against CPU-controlled opponents with rules that you can change as you see fit. You can compete with up to 3 CPUs for either the most damage dealt, the highest kill count, or the highest kill count again, but now with a bunch of grunts showing up all over the place. This was unfortunately the least fun part of the game, because the AI just didn't seem interested in competing at all. Even with a handicap, my scores were easily 5 to 10 times higher than that of the AI. So I tried every mode once for this review, and then never played them again. Which then brings me to the one thing that the remastered version doesn't have, that the original did have. Local and online multiplayer. The original allowed for up to 4 players to get together and have fun, but in the remastered version, this functionality was axed completely. I can understand Bandai not wanting to make and maintain dedicated servers for this game, but why wouldn't you allow players to host their own matches? And now, let's talk graphics. For a remaster of a 2012 Vita game that, honestly, wasn't all that visually impressive for the time, the graphics are fair enough. They're obviously not going to blow you away, but for the most part, they're not too dated to be a distraction either. However, it is noticeable in certain areas. In cutscenes, the landscape will look particularly barren, and if you pay attention to the movements of the mobile suits, you'll see that they're very stiff, and that they don't transition nicely from one action to another. I noticed these with the original, and they weren't improved for the remake. So in conclusion, Gundam Seed Battle Destiny Remastered knows what it is, and knows who its audience is. It offers a solid combat system, a lot of mobile suits to collect, a lot of somewhat repetitive stages to use them in, customization options to keep things fresh, and a modern coat of paint, with some handy quality of life features added in there for good measure. If you're a fan of the Gundam Seed series, this game is pretty much your perfect sandbox, and you'll be able to get a lot of hours out of this. Whether or not you should immediately pull the trigger on it for $40, I'm going to leave up to you. But when it goes on sale, absolutely. And another reason that you might want to buy this is to send a message. In recent years, it's become somewhat of a trend to remaster and re-release old games because, you know, making new games is hard and expensive, and on top of that, we've seen old games that were released only in Japan getting an official English release. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gundam Seed Battle Destiny Remastered is Bandai's way of testing out the waters for bringing more old Gundam games to Steam, and of course modern consoles. And with that, I'm off to grind a bit more so that I can unlock my customization limit. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.